Hi, I'm Ken,
And I'm Yasmin.
and
And
this
this is
is
Conversations
Conversations
with
with
Ken
Ken
and
and
Yasmin.
Yasmin.
We are so excited and so honored to have Jenne Vath with us here today. Jenne Vath is a New York-based actor and a graduate of New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. She has worked with me on so many of my plays, including Kalinovic at Theater for a New City, Returning, Jasmine Spring, and she played the role of Dahlia in The War Zone Is My Bed, which world premiered at La Mama, ETC, and all were directed by La Mama Experimental Theater Company's resident director, George Ferens. Jenne has also worked with Theater for a New City, the Ridiculous Theater Company, Regeneration Company, Red Bull Theater. We are so honored to have her with us today. Welcome, Jenne.
The honor is mine. Thank you, Yasmin and Ken.
Jenne, I have to say that you're probably the only person I know who has been able to maintain an entire career in theater. Your whole professional life has been working in theater. Of course, you do film and TV. We're going to discuss that later. But to be a New York theater working actress, what has that been like for you?
Oh, it's been tremendous because I love this city. This city is definitely home and gives me so much inspiration and energy that it's an honor and an inspiration to be able to work within its great energy. It's and to work with tremendous artists like you, Yasmin.
Thank you.
It's been you've been a great source of inspiration.
Well, you've been a muse. You've just been inspiration as well, and we've had marvelous experiences working together. And I feel like that we're very blessed. We're very honored that we had those moments that I don't know if the next generation will have as we had. It may be a very different landscape living in a COVID world as an artist.
Yes, this is very interesting time because so much of what theater is energetic, as far as I understand it. You know, that what we have come to know as theater is being in a room together and feeling and thinking and storytelling together, literally feeling each other's energy. And for the past 6 months, it's been a huge pivot to be creating on for the most part on screen together. You know,
You just did a film in New York.
I
And
did.
I'm very curious as to how the COVID landscape impacted performance and content.
You know, of course, when we entered, the set, we were all tested. We were all interviewed about our symptoms. We had to wear the masks. We had to social distance.
Mhm.
And the scene itself, that it was a day shoot. The scene itself was socially distanced. So, I mean, I don't know if they had to rewrite it that way or it was innately that way. But everyone was very careful as far as not getting too close to each other. It was a very safe set.
Does that hinder performance if people are so cautious about maintaining distance? Is there a refrain in performance possibly with that precaution that's so important for us to take? But as artists, as actors, as writers, directors, how does one maintain art and freedom of art and expression in this environment?
You are always feeding in, certain requisites of what a scene requires. And part of our job as an actor is to, embrace certain physical realities that a scene requires. We have to embrace certain requisites that a text requires, that a character requires. So all that feeds into what the scene will be. So if we are given the confine of not being able to reach out and touch another actor, that is definitely going to inform the performance itself. Sometimes, on stage, oftentimes that distance creates a higher energy.
Yeah.
When you don't have the contact, but there's all that energy between you.
As you're speaking, I'm thinking about all the work we've done together, and my plays, which have very intimate moments between characters. And I'm curious if we could have produced those plays today in this environment. I don't know. Would they be different plays? Would they have different tones? Would they be different stories?
I thought about that too, because one of your great frequent and important themes, Yasmine, is intimacy, and intimacy between lovers. You give us a window into situations that we don't often get to be a spy in on. You take us into places between human beings that we don't get to view. It's such a special thing that you write, Yasmine. And oftentimes that requires the actors to get very physically close with each other. Oftentimes,
very much.
Yes. Yasmine's no holds barred.
Very, very raw. Ken knows he's directed them too.
Yes.
Well, Ken, you directed Warzone, right?
Well, I directed the West Coast premiere of Warzone. Yes.
And Jenny was in the East Coast premiere and the world premiere at La Mama.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could have flown out to see it. I think it's just such a brilliant play.
Yes. That also makes me think about, since, we were all graduates of Tisch, we all worked at La Mama, the experiences that we developed from just on a day-to-day basis of interacting with people. And now that we're in this space where we can't do that, about how do you feel that that's going to influence, especially theater in the future, since technically there is no theater really happening right now. I mean, how do you feel that this lack of human contact is going to affect the future of what theater is and will become?
I think there will be a lot of stories coming out of this. I do believe and hope there'll be another side of this. There'll be a vaccine, and we'll come back together to being in the room together, as twere, being able to sit side by side as audience members, being able to do plays that bring actors into intimate situations like Warzone does. God willing, there'll be a vaccine sooner rather than later, and we're safe. But I think there'll be a lot of stories that will come out of this, and we'll be seeing a lot of plays about this time and movies. I think Zoom will live on. I think we're going to have performance on Zoom way after that other side comes. I think rehearsal on Zoom will endure. Definitely.
Do you fear that audiences may be zoomed out if they're Zooming all day at work, through meetings at work? Is there a fear that the audience may get zoomed out and may not participate as audience members?
I'm sorry to say I've heard that phrase already.
Yeah.
I've heard that phrase already from audiences on Zoomed out. You know, and I think artists are now, you know, looking to expand the form.
Mm.
You know, we're all, you know, we've all done readings on Zoom. You know, even off book, we've done performances.
Yeah.
Where looking straight into the camera. I think folks are now looking to see what this form can do as far as combining live performance with the Zoom that we know. I've just been asked by a friend who's taking a class in how to direct for Zoom.
Wow.
Through primary stages theater, I think. So there's, you know, there's even classes now on acting for Zoom. I believe HP Studio is like doing classes that are, you know, not just acting the class on Zoom, but acting for Zoom. Within the readings I've been doing, I've been listening for times when I can use this camera in a different way than just reading into it or costuming for it. When can I maybe do a tracking shot? I did a reading a couple of weeks ago of Maria Irene Fornes' Fefu and Her Friends with the Great Regeneration Theater Company. I played Emma, and there was a moment where she had a monologue, which was sort of a performance / monologue for her friends, a piece of poetry, and Ms. Fornes' work, you know, it embraces expressionism. So this, what this monologue was doing in the text, what I heard in it was something that was meant to take the play to a different place, take the characters on stage to a different place, you know, emotionally, spiritually, psychically. So, you know, I thought, oh, well, this is a place to take a chance, you know. So it said in the text she's doing like some kind of expressionistic movement or you know, some kind of movement. So I decided to move the camera and do work with shadows on the wall. I set up candles on the floor and laid the camera down and laid down with it. You know, and how can we surprise the audience and take them to a different place? It might have, you know, jolted the situation to serve that place in the text where it would take what's on stage to a different level. You know, whereas on stage that would be certainly something energetically more simply to achieve, you know, because you'd be able to work with the energy that's on stage. Here you have the screen, you can't necessarily work with that energy where I touch you with my voice.
Right. You know, I know that you know, of course, Europe is not the United States. It's not fair to compare what individual countries in Europe are doing artistically to what we're doing artistically, but I'm reading more and more about theaters in Europe becoming very creative, working in garages, social distancing audience members, opening up, performing live. There's the live performance of Diva Cure in Berlin that recently opened, and I'm reading more and more about those endeavors to bring back live performance to an audience. Do you think it's possible for us to do that now if we were creative, using site-specific theater, using more outdoor space? Is it
Absolutely.
possible?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Should we right now? Should we really try to be more creative and and fight to do that now as artists.
As long as we're taking care of each other, as
Yeah.
long as everyone's
Yeah.
safe.
Mhm.
I think there's a company in Brooklyn who works out of Irondale, David Herskovitz company.
Mhm.
I think is doing something outside come October. I know Crystal Field at Theater for the New City in a heartbeat. As soon as we're able to open up, she's there with it. Definitely keeping everybody safe, making sure everyone's safe and nobody's in danger of getting any
Of course.
any of the virus. I believe now. I mean, that there's talk of smaller, of course, smaller casts, or
Okay.
maybe even 2 people on stage, socially distanced. At this point, I think people are talking about keeping the audience at home with a Zoom, but having the actors on stage.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
Maybe having the audience having sheets of plastic between you, plexiglass between you.
Yeah. Oh.
I believe that's what they did up in the Berkshires. They had most of the actors were behind a plexiglass.
Mhm.
They did a Godspell up there this summer.
But here we are in New York, and New York is theater. Should more be said by politicians about ways to bring that back? And also film and a large television and film community as well in New York? Is there more that they can say to bring back?
Oh, well,
art?
yes, the arts should be a bigger discussion all around. I wish that the arts were a bigger discussion, all the time in the political discussion. Funding of the arts and theater is very, very important everywhere, but in New York, it's super part of the heartbeat. It may take the theater artists initiating that, approaching the city and saying, hey, we've done this, and this to take care of our audience.
Mhm.
We've done this, and this, and we want to try this. It may take the theater artist initiating that.
It just seems that at this point that right now, the way that everything is in flux, that we're at this point in time in which this technology could create this new in-between phase where it's not theater, but it's not TV. It's kind of like how these Zoom play readings and Zoom performances are that intermediate step in between acting for stage and acting for TV, yet it's not either. And basically creating this new technology which kind of focuses in on this moment that we have that can flourish, that I think that at least being out here in California, finding ways to monetize that to where people can make money off of it. Because I think the weird thing that's happening right now is that when we get to the point of actually having to do live theater, will it get to a point where the cost of the ticket will be so high that it only speaks to a specific type or specific group of people that can afford to see it? Is there a way that we can find the way where we're not basically getting back to what theater used to be in the earlier days, where we're speaking to the general community, but it was basically an art form of the elite?
Did you hear what happened in Madrid? What happened last week at the opera in Madrid?
Yeah.
They live opera, how wonderful, in Madrid. The more expensive price tickets downstairs were socially distanced. For the people in the mezzanine, they were not socially distanced. They were packed in. And so the people upstairs looked to their left, looked to their right, and said, what is this? They were all packed, all sitting on top of each other, and complained. Then the house said, okay, you can start to move. But there was no socially
Place
distanced
for them,
seat for them to go.
the place
So
for them to go.
they started booing, and they had to close the show.
Oh my God.
So the people who had paid more had the privilege of being socially distanced. Theirs. But the people who could not afford those tickets did not have that privilege. So Jenny, in addition to acting, you have also produced, and even before the pandemic, there were theaters that welcome smaller productions. What do you see now with the trajectory of small casts.
When the theater shutdown happened, and when we started going on to Zoom, it did begin to feel like a little bit like off Broadway, in terms of we had to really, we still have to really like think about how to create a new form. So everyone's creative juices are going, as far as everyone is thinking of how can I make theater in this new form. People have brought up that it feels like the early days of television, that this is something that is unprecedented. No one's ever had to go through this before, since I guess 1918 or whatever. And so all of us are struggling together with this new form, and trying to think of new ways to make it happen.
And they kept theater open in 1918, from what I've researched and read.
Yeah. It this is very new. This is so maybe there will be maybe there'll be a combo of two actors on stage and then having Zoom screens on the stage. And you have there might be a combination of Zoom and live theater happening. You have some actors communicating with other actors in other spaces in the theater, or two productions going on at the same time in two different theaters. And half of it Zoom, half of it live. There may be and that could definitely endure. That could definitely skip the moment. You began to see that in productions. If you guys saw Dear Evan Hansen.
I never saw it. I hope I want to say I haven't seen it because I want to see it. So I'm going to be optimistic that I will see it.
Right, exactly. When it comes back, it's still running, I believe.
When it comes back.
They did a lot on this Broadway stage with live feed and projection and communicating, communicating through live feed. La Mama's been experimenting with that for many years now with the Culture Hub.
Even out here, the thing that's been so interesting is the return of the drive-in movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there have been a lot of taking mall parking lots and then projecting films onto the wall so people could actually sit there and be within their own units, within their cars and things like that, and thinking that theater probably will. I mean, I've known they've been doing stand-up shows in parking lots and amphitheaters and things like that where everybody's been socially distanced.
Shakespeare in the parking lot.
Yeah, pretty much, just like
I remember Shakespeare in the parking lot.
And that's just one of those things about, finding out ways to actually, direct the movement where at least, if the cast is pretty much safe, then you can have the audience that has that distance. But I think that it's possible. It's just right now, it's like, getting people out to do the things that they need to do. Because, here, a lot of the entertainment venues are still closed. You can't have comedy shows, you can't have plays, you can't have any type of theater. Bars, restaurants are still pretty much closed at night for, inside dining. I mean, I know a couple of bars that have gotten away from that, but cocktails to go, which seems kind of dangerous. They give people drinks, they have them driving home, but it's California. But at the same time, I think that when we deal with the future of what's happening right now, that something's got to give when it comes to the arts. I mean, it's it's the first thing to go in school budgets. The last that they think about at the end.
Oh God.
So right now it's kind of the idea of what arts actually do to kids, more beyond just, the outward aspect. They don't talk about the communication, the social skills, even dealing with certain things like the math that actually comes through, music is like math with creativity added to it, as far as everything that you need to do. They think about it as who needs to learn how to play an instrument? Well, there's so many different things. Who needs to ask? Public speaking, the things that happen educational wise through arts programs. It's just kind of like, okay, that's the first thing that needs to cut, because, you know, we need to get uniforms. We need to get face masks for our football team. Things like that. So, which leads me to, that's a long rant.
But a very, very important one.
Let me ask Jenny, what do the arts bring to a society, in your opinion?
It has been key to every society that we have ever known or documented. Mm-hmm. Like looking back, excavating, there has always been arts in every situation, in every society. It brings something essential that makes it a civilization. Okay. It's a part of the definition of civilization. Yeah. Is the arts. It's a part of the human experience.
It brought all three of us together because we all went to Tisch.
Yes.
At NYU. What was that experience like, Jenny, as an acting major at Tisch? Tell us about that.
Phenomenal. Yeah. There's aspects of the training that I did at Tisch, acting department, you know, where the actors go out to, they partner with professional studios in the city. Yeah. And there's aspects of the training I got, Yasmine, how many years ago, that I still use. There's a vocal warm up I do before every performance.
Really? The same one that you did as a student?
Same one from that many years ago. Yeah.
Do you remember master teachers you worked with, or anyone in particular, or?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, many. I trained at the Stella Adler Conservatory for 2 years. Yeah. And then where I studied with James Tripp. Who still teaches, apparently still teaches there. He's a genius. I studied with a gentleman named Mario Saletti, who sadly passed on, but he taught Shakespeare there. Stella was there my first semester. It was her last semester in New York. She was ill, and she went to live in California for her health. But we got to observe one day with her. And then after 2 years at Stella, I went to, they had just started a program at Playwrights Horizons Theater School for actors. It had been for directors and designers, and they started something called the third year practicum, where I studied with a director who's out in California now, amazing artist named Travis Preston, who teaches at, I think, Cal Arts now, and a brilliant man of the theater, Royston Coppinger. It was a great time there because it was all sort of just very new and malleable, and we were sort of encouraged to create and make theater. And then after graduation, it was a whole education at La Mama with George Ferentz.
Oh yeah.
As we both know.
He brought us together, Jenny. What does it mean to you to meet a director like George, to work with a director who has influenced you so? I know he's influenced me and my work, and as Ken has influenced me, and I've been honored to work with him as my director. So how gifted we are with these directors in our lives.
Oh yeah, it means so much. it's we might encourage young artists out there to keep their eyes open for and ears open for all the gifts that directors like Ken, George will give them.
For me, it was just like going back to Tisch was like, I think about those moments in which they would have those symposiums or where they'd have these, award-winning playwrights come and talk to us.
Yeah.
And I think about those moments where, Arthur Miller coming and talking to us, and Craig Lucas and Lanford Wilson and Tony Kushner, and getting a chance to talk to these people one-on-one that had this huge, this statement and work that they've done within the theater. Just knowing how much just that laid-back conversation that I had with them changed the way that I really attacked my work from a playwright's perspective. And knowing that, with the students that are in school right now, I start thinking about modern day theater and who would be their influences right now, and how programs are going to have to change during this moment in time. It's like the fact that going to NYU, teaching there for a summer semester, and then teaching for 18 years at USC in screenwriting. Thinking about the programs and what does this current situation mean for the future of studying arts on a collegiate level?
Especially if it's remote, Jenny. How do you foresee this landscape of art schools and MFA programs and BFA programs? How will this be achieved?
Students today are definitely going to have a handle on and young people today too on the aspect of the technical aspect of how to run their business as an artist. I think. Mm-hmm. I remember that was not necessarily something that was stressed back when I was a student. It was, we were really just about the art, it was like, and back in the day, it was almost like business, huh? I'm an artist, it's like, it is important to know how to handle that business aspect. So, which is very technical these days, and young people do have, students, actors, young professionals have to know how to film themselves, and that's become a big presence in the business aspect. So, I think on a positive note, that will be a tool under their belt, no problem. On a not so positive note, it's you got to be in the room with each other, and that's the you've got to be acting. You've got to be in the presence of others. It's an energetic art form. So that does need to be solved on how to be safely in the room with each other.
Well, yeah. I know like the difference between like where when I was at Howard studying acting, and basically the whole aspect was business show, never show business. We always focused on the business aspect of things first before we really got down into the technical aspect of what we wanted to do as actors. But also on top of that, what I brought from Howard to when I was at NYU and to even going to when I was teaching was this idea about, focusing on the human connection that we had with one another and the things that make us, the commonalities that make us more human, which is one of the things that has been plaguing me recently. And when I think about some of the exercises I used to give to my writing students at SC, which seemed to come, a lot of them came from privileged backgrounds. So they would write about people of color and only think about what they saw on television. And I'm giving them a simple exercise like take the bus for a couple of blocks, find somebody and write their bio about, how this person got from where they were to meeting you on the same bus. And I would do that because there were times I would get these stories going like, that is the most, I've got to jar you to like realizing that we're all human beings. I can't imagine what I would do to jar people out of their let's just say, their comfort zones, where there's no place for them to really go now. I mean, because where USC was located, it was like, take the bus, you're going to find, some people that look nothing like you, have completely different experiences, and write about them. But right now, it's like, I don't know how we can make those adjustments to get people to break out of their own tribe, so to speak, become more humane.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've got to be with each other to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Yasmine?
On one hand, you can go internally and you can really perhaps utilize those exercises and this time to really discover yourself and who you are and what you want to give and what you have to give. So on one hand, you can really do soul searching and find your art from within. But on the other hand, as Jenny said, we have to be in the room with each other. We have to feel each other's presence. I think you so eloquently said and so beautifully said. Can we have a combination of the two? I guess we won't really have a choice. It'll have to be from within, but also with the optimism we will meet again.
Right.
We
It's
will
kind
meet
of
again.
the idea of knowing that, once you have a camera in front of you, you're actually framing what people get to see about you. So how honest is that exchange where you're dealing with other
Right.
people that you need to deal with their experiences? Because you're basically,
Yeah.
everything this is my representation of who I want you to think I am.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, when we're creating art, it's basically like, when you deal with anything that's directing, you've got the frame. What's happening outside of the frame? What is the experience of people's lives outside of this Zoom camera?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing I think we're going to lose a lot in this point in time, is about those three-dimensional elements of humanity. What do we get to see beyond the frame? Which I think is what makes art really pop, art really connect with other people, is those things that we don't see that get revealed. And that's where I'm trying to figure out, like, how art programs can actually extend into finding ways to tap into that humanity.
And on the other hand, Jenny, you were saying as well that this, I don't want to repeat zoomed out because I don't feel that way. And I think that Zoom and this kind of communication brings art to people who perhaps never had that chance to come to New York and see a play on Broadway or off Broadway. And so there's also, I think, paradoxically, there's also an intimacy through Zoom, that we're so close and we can see each other's faces so clearly in our expressions and our and everything on a more intimate level than in the mezzanine or far away without the opportunity to see theater.
It's kind of like when they whoever, I can't remember the name of the director who directed Hamilton when it was shown through the Disney Channel, and how they actually changed the forms of getting close into people, have intimate moments in which you would never be able to actually experience if you're watching the production, and saying that how this performance might change the way that they shoot musicals for film as a whole. And now the key thing is, when are we going to actually get a chance to see another musical in person, for them to shoot this in such a way that brings that intimacy that you weren't actually able to experience.
Jenny, do you invite that intimacy now with Zoom? Are you inviting that closeness?
Oh, well, that is definitely what you guys said is just so beautiful and true, is that is there is a great intimacy in terms of, you do have your audience right here, and they're going to see everything, it's a very intimate experience, and that is a positive. That is a positive.
A friend of mine who saw Brian Dennehy, and I saw also Brian Dennehy's performance in Death of a Salesman back, I think it was the 90s, late 90s, I can't recall. She was able to afford, a friend of mine was able to afford the ticket in the orchestra, and she got to see Elizabeth Franz's Tears. I was sitting up in the mezzanine. I didn't have that opportunity. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish I had been able to see Elizabeth Franz's Tears. she had that she had that opportunity. I did not at that time. But through Zoom, we would see your tears. No one would miss them.
Right.
You could see that. And also, I mean, here you are. I mean, I'm with you guys, but I'm in this room by myself now. And you know, I mean, it does allow for a sort of a very you know, a great intimacy in terms of, you know, you're not surrounded by other actors. You're not on a sound stage. You don't have like a big camera or a boom here, you know, audio here, you know, it is just like you in your room and you out there, you know, so it does allow for that kind of, you know, very, very deep confessional aspect or
honesty, complete honesty.
Yeah.
And a strengthening of listening skills as well. I mean, like you have to listen to what the person's saying and how they're saying it before you can respond to it. Because you don't get that physical energy for that person you're working across from. You've got to truly find out where their emotions are locked in within the nature of the context of the way that they're using the words. And also with Zoom, because it's so intimate, false moments will be radiated versus truth. If you're not being truth and honest right here where the camera's this close to you, everybody in the audience is going to know that you're full of crap. And that's going to force people to strengthen those on-camera skills where you can't hide. You can have a moment where like, what's the next word that's popping out of my, you've got to be locked in.
That's a very
10
good
times
point.
more.
So it's making us better actors in a certain way?
Making us better, making people more honest with their acting choices. Definitely, because there's no way, you can't hide from it. Because there are those people that can remember things like in short spurts. But if you've got to contain character for a short amount, you know, for a long period of time and the camera's this close to you, you've got to be locked in. You've got to be locked and loaded. If you're not, everybody is going to see it. And then on top of that, if it's, you know, a live stream, you know, on Facebook, there are going to be those people that are just waiting for that moment so they can put all the comments on it. So you've got to be like locked in from the beginning, you know. Just be able to trust yourself, to strengthen that emotional core to push yourself through as a performer.
So do you think this is a great time for, say, you know, the method, which really the method acting is really strong for thought behind the eyes and emotional truth.
Right. And I think it's also one of those things that's going to start letting people know how difficult this is in true honesty. To be that emotionally raw, that emotionally honest at a point in time in which you have to make that connection to the audience is something that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to the process of acting. And I think that this is going to allow those people who really want to be committed to this to really reinvest in how they approach it. The same thing when it comes to writing. And understanding now you're forced to go to a different level of intimacy with the words that you use because this is a medium that you have. I mean, there's a difference between, it's like I said, it's in between like playwriting, writing for television, and screenwriting. Now that if this is going to be a medium that's going to continue, then you need to focus on how do I really change my approach to this medium, even though it's visual writing like screenwriting is and writing for television, but then at the same time not, until you get to a point in time where you have control of the camera angles and things like that. If you were doing this like live for studio audience, we actually had a director in a booth with a switcher to change the different shots to lock in and tape it live. You've got to think about that as you're writing, especially because otherwise it seems like there's this point that we're in that we don't know where it's going to end up. So we've got to deal with what we have right now. So how do we deal with that? Using what we've experienced before, because this is a medium that we really don't know that is a medium that we haven't really learned how to master yet. Like somebody's going to find some way, some app that they're really going to lock into. It's like the same thing like watching the Emmys, which was a very interesting yet odd experience because no audience and having people at people's homes and everything, and knowing that there was somebody in the control booth making some specific choices and the mistakes that were made and the accidents that happened.
It'll show who's truly committed.
Yeah.
I think living in this in this landscape at this time will reveal who really wants to go into the medical profession and is still called to do that, even though there is danger now more than before, who is called to really participate in the arts, even though you are starting from a very new place. That could be scary. That could be so distant from anything you've envisioned. I think, again, this is a time of commitment, and people will really have to listen to what they are called to do, and will they be able to stand and do it. I know, Jenny, you have your whole professional life. You have produced the most beautiful, brilliant performances, and I have been so honored and so privileged to have you to read my words, to breathe my words. It's an honor and a gift, and I am humbled by that, and I thank you, and I mean that.
Well, Yasmine, thank you. It's an honor to speak your words. It's an honor to work with you.
And we will again, and I believe we will on stage again when
Yeah.
it's over and Ken will direct us again.
Given that your theme is often breaking down emotional, physical barriers between human beings in very high charged situations. Are you feeling a surge to write that more so, or are you feeling the pull to write for how has this affected your work?
As of now, at this moment, I have no plan or feeling about writing about a COVID experience. I still want to maintain my themes of relationships, of intimacy, but I think I've begun that even before COVID, looking at intimacy through distance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to maintain that theme about relationships and closeness, but also finding a way to do that through a physical distance, which I've begun to play with Icarus and Amina, two characters on stage, physically distant, but very intimate in this moment. So even before COVID, I have explored that, and I will maintain that. I don't want to write a COVID play. I don't feel led to right now. I don't know if that will change, but I want to maintain what has led me as a writer. What about you, Ken, as a director?
Directing wise, I really have been thinking about that. I mean, writing wise, I've been basically focusing more on my prose.
Mm-hmm.
Because what it does, it allows me to get more intimate with my characters and some of their experiences, and hopefully that I will get back to screenplays and plays and everything. But the idea of writing prose excites me in this moment because it's kind of like I can direct, deal with intimacy, show the elements that I would not be able to show on stage through creating these characters, and still, writing the way that I would normally write with these characters that are just unique within their own experiences, but at the same time being able to push it to a different level because I'm actually able to create these three-dimensional characters, being able to use every aspect of it, because now I've got to put these pictures in people's heads and have them understand motivations through the inner workings of characters that sometimes you can't show through stage or film. So I've been focusing on my prose, and hopefully, because like I said, it's the process, it's the mantra of writing. So when I actually do figure out what I want to do for stage or screen, I'll be able to come back to that. Because between writing prose and a lot of small, short animation scripts and things like that, because that's something that you can still do. But that's where my focus has been.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And Jenny, what are you seeking right now as an actress? What are you looking to
Well, I am definitely keeping my eyes and ears open for ways in which the live experience can come back.
Yeah.
You know, I know, you know, some folks are looking at, well, I mean, is there a possible way that we could do outdoor theater?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is there a way we can do it live with the audience at home?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, definitely, the audience is number one, keeping them safe. You know, but how do we do bring this intimacy, this togetherness, this sharing of human energy, you know, back safely.
Yeah.
And as far as the Zoom goes, when I have a Zoom assignment, how do I keep the sense of surprise in it?
Mm.
How do I keep forwarding the form? I've bought a little tape recorder, you know, to underscore myself sometimes. I record my own sound cues. How do I change the light? How do I keep surprising my audience? Yeah, with it. How do I keep working harder? Yeah, to get more true, to surprise you through the acting. How could I change my camera angle, show you a different point of view? You know, because surprising audience can wake you up. You know, surprising in the moment of the reading of the show. You know.
Jenne Vath, thank you.
Thank you. Oh my God, God bless you guys.
Thank you.
What an honor.
Until next time. I love you. Just we're gonna get done, okay? What are you doing? Do you need to? Oh, you turn off the fan. Okay.